Hi there, it's Lara here with another weekly Witchy Wednesday astrology forecast. This one's for the week of February 18th to 25th, 2020. So, we're going to talk today about the upcoming new moon in Pisces, which is happening on Sunday, the 23rd of February at about 10:32 a.m. Eastern time. So you can adjust accordingly for your time zone. And the moon will be together with the sun, like all new moons are, and at about the 4 degrees Pisces mark. So if you have planets, points, your sun, your moon, your rising sign, or a cluster of planets, any particular planets, right there around the 4 degree Pisces mark, give or take, 5 degrees on either side, or at that degree of the other mutable signs, right? Pisces is a mutable water sign. And then we've got Virgo and Sagittarius and Gemini are also mutable signs. So if you have anything around, as I said, the 4 degree, give or take 5 degrees on either side of the mutable signs, this new moon will be felt by you probably more profoundly than the majority. However, like with all new moons, full moons, astrological events, we all feel them on some level, or at very least we experience them in our awareness. And with a new moon, as I mentioned, it's always when the sun and the moon come together in the sky to birth something new, right? So there's this new seed planted at the time of a new moon. And depending on the zodiac sign that the moon is being birthed in, that the energies of that sign flavor the new moon. And whatever house that sign occupies for us in our charts is where this, if we really want to grow something, it's optimal to focus kind of on the themes surrounding that particular house that the new moon is happening in. So this new moon is really quite interesting and positive, I think, in many ways. So we have the new moon in conversation with both Mars and Uranus. So Mars is in Capricorn at 4 degrees, so exact degree of the new moon. And Uranus is in Taurus at 3 degrees, so within a degree. And Uranus and Mars are in this conversation, right, called a trine at this time. And that is a conversation of ease and flow. It's supportive, it's helpful. And both of these planets are then in a positive conversation with the new moon, called a sextile. They're both sextiling the new moon, right? And this is a conversation of opportunity. It is, it sort of charges things up in a positive way. And so all of this together is forming this, what we call a minor grand trine. So it's this triangle shape that's injecting this energy into the new moon. So we're going to break those pieces down as we go through the video here. Of course, we also have Mercury retrograde, which has been happening. I talked about that last week, Mercury retrograde in Pisces. And it's interesting because I find that oftentimes a Mercury retrograde in Pisces can trigger some sort of water issues, right? Pisces is a water sign. And the day, it could be big or small, but the day that Mercury stationed retrograde, we had our downstairs toilet overflowed all over the laundry room, bathroom downstairs. It wasn't a huge deal. It got cleaned up. There's no lasting damage. There's nothing major, but it was interesting. And I've heard other people, I've had conversations with other people talking about water issues that they've had. Neptune is sitting, right there. I told you, I've spoken to you about that, how I have Neptune sitting on my natal sun right now at 17 degrees. But Neptune is in vicinity, right? And was right there around the Mercury retrograde. So Neptune can have that impact too. And we can sometimes see this in the collective with issues around water being triggered or lots of precipitation or these kinds of things, right? So that's just, interesting. But right now we're in this, the moon is in its waning phase. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but currently the moon's in Capricorn. It's going to move into Aquarius on Thursday and then into Pisces on Sunday when we'll have that new moon, and finally into Aries next Tuesday. But right now, the moon's energy is waning. So we've had the full moon, and now, the energy starts to wind down. In fact, when I was up early this morning before the sun was up, I looked outside, and the crescent moon was beautiful, very bright, and I could see Jupiter up there in the sky as well, right near the moon. The Mars and Jupiter and Saturn are all close to the moon right now. So, we can see those before. We could see those before sunrise at this time of the year. So, as I was saying, that the energy of the moon is waning, which means because we are closely connected to the moon and her ebbs and flows, right? Because we are largely made of water, the moon has a huge impact on the ocean tides. And so she also has an impact on us and our emotional tides and our energy. And so when we pay close attention and use her as our sort of guide, we can feel more in the natural flow of things. And even though in our crazy, busy, lives, even if we can't pause and wind down as much as we'd like to, when the moon is showing us that it's time to do that, we can at least have that awareness that that's where things are at. And so we can cut ourselves some slack, if we're feeling a little bit more low on energy at this time, like we need more sleep, that kind of thing. And so that's sort of where we're at right now. So be gentle with yourself if you're feeling that. Rest a little more if you can, during the waning moon phase. And we may start at this time kind of evaluating where things are at, right? Like we set our intentions around the new moon and then take some action towards, ideally anyways, take some action towards those intentions. And we may see these things start to bud around the full moon. And then as the moon starts to wane, we can reap the rewards in terms of, our ideas or our intentions, whatever we've planted, can bear some fruit as the moon is waning. And if that's not happening for us, then it's a time to kind of reflect on, okay, so, where did things not go according to plan? What could I have done differently? Maybe this just wasn't the right timing for this. These kinds of things. And we can reflect on that. So, and start to kind of move more inward, right? In preparation for the next new moon that will be coming on the 23rd, in this case, in the sign of Pisces. So that's how that works. And incidentally, if you haven't heard me say this before, if you're new to these videos, then I do have a free guide to working with the moon that you can grab over at my website. The link is below. And it can help you kind of get started in connecting with the energies of the moon and allow you to pay attention to how you respond to, say when the moon is in Scorpio, how does that feel for you? When the moon is in Capricorn, you know, is that easy for you or is it more difficult? And you can kind of prepare accordingly. And I give you, there's a 1-page PDF and an audio there, and the PDF goes through each of the zodiac signs, you know, when the moon is in certain signs, and gives you some ideas about how that energy could potentially be best utilized. So go grab that if you haven't yet. So we've got the new moon, 4 degrees Pisces. New moons are always about setting new intentions, about planting new seeds, about birthing something new, right? When the sun and the moon come together. And we want to ideally birth something new in the area of our chart, or plant seeds rather, in the area of our chart specifically that the new moon is happening in, right? And this month that happens to be in Pisces. So we're going to get to where that sits for you eventually. But there's a few other things I want to talk about that are happening in relation to this new moon. I think I mentioned, this is take 2 of this video, so forgive me. And because, you know, the whole Neptune on my sun thing is continuing, and it's Mercury retrograde. So forgive me if I misspeak here, or if I repeat myself. But I'm not sure that I told you in this video that if you have planets or points around the 4-degree Pisces mark, or 4 degrees of the other mutable signs, Virgo, Sagittarius, Gemini, within, you know, give or take 5 degrees there, this new moon will most certainly be felt by you, but it is felt by all of us in some area of life. So I'm going to show you the chart before we go any further. It feels the right time to do that now. So here's the chart for the new moon on the 23rd, 10:32 Eastern time. And so here we've got the sun and the moon, right? They're in Pisces at 4 degrees. Coming together, a blending of these energies, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, in order to plant new seeds, to conceive of something new, a new life, to breathe life into something, right? And so we have Mercury there as well, fairly close still. There's Neptune at 17 degrees. Mercury is at 9 degrees, 9 degrees. And so, you know, can sort of flavor this new moon as well, that Mercury retrograde. And then, of course, Capricorn, everything in Capricorn that continues, including Mars that we spoke about last week, right? That's moved into Capricorn now and is at 4 degrees of Capricorn, and very close to the south node of the moon. And what's happening here is Mars is in a conversation, a supportive conversation with Uranus and Taurus, a fellow earth sign, at 3 degrees. So this is called a trine. And you can see where we kind of have this kind of triangle with the apex here at the new moon. So the new moon is sextiling Mars and Capricorn and Uranus and Taurus, right? And it's a concentration. These energies are like pushing into the new moon, injecting some life, some energy. And in this case, it's quite positive. These conversations are positive. I also want to point out, we've got Lilith and Chiron conjunct each other in Aries here. And, you know, we may be feeling that sort of fire. I spoke about that. I think it was last week's video. Might have been the week before, but you can check about that. And then the last thing I want to point out is the moon is also having this conversation with the nodes. So we've got the south node at 6 degrees of Cancer, and the north node at 6 degrees Cancer, the south node, as I pointed out to you, at 6 degrees of Capricorn, right? And those are in conversation with the new moon. So just looking at my notes here. I need notes more than ever with this whole Mercury retrograde and Neptune kind of thing going on for me. So let's break these pieces down. What I want to say, one thing I want to mention to you is that this new moon, of course, like all new moons, right? Fresh start, new beginnings, planting seeds of intention, like I mentioned. But in this case, the seeds that you plant will best grow if they are something kind of unusual, out of the ordinary, unique, perhaps something that you may not have considered before. And that's because of the involvement of Uranus in relation to the new moon, right? And that conversation between Mars and Uranus. Mars and Uranus, as I said, trining each other and together injecting some energy into the new moon. So Mars and Uranus is very electric energy. It's very, very I get this image of like all the neurons firing kind of thing, and just a lot of action. And if those two planets were in a more difficult conversation, this could look very different. This could look like impulsiveness in the direction of, accidents, that kind of thing, or misplaced. If the energy isn't discharged in a healthy way, leading to some kind of major, explosive event kind of thing. So, but Mars and Uranus are in a positive conversation. And so this is like this energy where we can feel really kind of charged up, right? Whatever we want to begin has this, the real support here of Mars and Uranus, and Mars being this warrior planet of drive and will and passion, right? And assertiveness and going for it. And then Uranus being the suddenness, the futuristic vision, the liberation, the rebellion, these kinds of things, right? And so we may get this sudden, thought or idea or drive to do something new and different. So when I was thinking about this new moon, a quote popped into my head that you may have heard. And it's by David Thoreau. My husband actually has a coffee mug with this on it. It says, "Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you've imagined." This new moon has that energy surrounding it, which is really beautiful, right? The thing I will say is because it's in Pisces, we have to leave room for the unexpected. We have to leave room for the magic. Pisces, we talked a lot about Pisces last week, but I'll just reiterate here. Pisces is a mutable water sign. It is this yin feminine energy, and it is dreamy and compassionate and sensitive and intuitive and really spiritual, spiritually connected, otherworldly, difficult to pin down, right? Its ruler is Neptune, sort of ethereal, creative, all of these lovely things, but it has a downside, right? And that downside is potential, delusion, being really impractical, boundaryless. I wrote about this on Facebook actually this morning. So if you want to check out what I wrote, you can head over to my Facebook page after you watch this. The link is below to that, to Facebook and Instagram always. But also on the downside, Pisces can be quite defensive. Pisces can be a martyr. Pisces can slip into addictions and self-sabotage because it feels all the feels, and it's just wants to escape, right? Because sometimes things don't feel so good, and it has this tendency to just absorb everything. So when we're operating at the higher octave of that energy, it can be quite beautiful. It can be a time to dream about new possibilities and to take care of our spiritual health, and really perhaps, start a new spiritual practice at this time. Tap into our intuition, and maybe set some intentions to overcome some bad habits that we may have developed, some self-sabotaging behaviors, to maybe deal with if we've been operating in victim mentality, to do something about that, at this time. Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac, as I've mentioned before. So it's absorbed something, the experiences of all the other signs. And so it's like when we get to Pisces, I've done all I can possibly do at this point, and now I just have to let go and trust the process and trust the universe and have faith that everything will work out. That's the energy of Pisces, ideally. And so at this time, it's kind of like the Uranus-Mars energy can really make us feel like we really have to take action. We want to get something done. It can give us more stamina, more drive, which isn't generally associated with Pisces energy. But we also there's an element of us just letting go and allowing what will be to happen. And if we do that, if we try not to cling so tight or hang on to, to the way we want things to pan out, or not, maybe not try to plan every little detail like Pisces opposite sign Virgo would do, but rather to just have a general kind of idea of, this is where I'm headed, but I'm going to allow the universe to take the reins, right? That's really optimally how to work with the energy of this new moon. Now, that's not to say throw caution to the wind, screw it. I'm just gonna go on a weekend bender and let the chips fall where they may. No, that's the lower octave of Pisces, right? Where we just kind of throw our hands up because it's all too much, and we sink into some kind of depression, victim mentality, this kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Very, that's a word that won't come to mind right now, but just kind of, nothing matters, so I might as well just kind of, do whatever the hell I want, or I'm going to just escape into this bottle, or whatever, that kind of thing. That's not what we want to happen at this time. So, a couple other things I'll mention to you are, I pointed out the new moon it's trining the North Node, right? So the North Node in Cancer and the new moon in Pisces, those two water signs trine each other. And so this can be a real time when our emotions are really aligned with our destiny, right? North Node, with our life path, North Node. It can be easier to kind of let go and trust the call of our North Node, if you will. The other thing that's going on at the same time as this new moon is we've got Neptune and Jupiter in a positive conversation as well. So in a sextile, right? And Neptune and Jupiter are the co-rulers of Pisces. Before Neptune was discovered, Jupiter ruled Pisces. And so I think this is also this injection of magic, an opportunity that sort of just seems to flow in. And when we allow the opportunity to flow in, we ride that wave like an expert surfer sort of thing. That's sort of the Mars energy, right? And maybe kind of figure out some new, unique way to ride that wave with the Uranus piece. And one thing I found the last thing I'll mention to you before I start going through each of the signs is when I was doing some reading, I found out that both Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci had their natal moon at 4 degrees Pisces. So right around that point, they were both born with the moon at the place of this new moon. So that gives you some idea of what the energy of this new moon is like, right? Very creative and visionary and spiritually connected, all of these things. So I just thought I'd mention that to you. I'm going to start going through the signs now. I will say, I'm feeling, as I record this video, I feel a bit spacey. I feel a bit underwater. That may be coming through. I don't know. I'm trying to kind of, keep it in check, but it is, there's that aura surrounding me right now, and I can feel it. So I hope that what I'm saying is not kind of too all over the map, and that you're getting something from this video. But I'm going to try to do the Pisces thing and let go and let it be what it will be, right? At this point, I've done, I don't know, 100 videos, more than 100 of these videos. They can't all be, they can't all be perfect. None of them have been, I don't think, to date. But anyways, so we're going to go through the signs now, and I'm going to speak to where this new moon is happening for you on the 23rd. So what house is it falling in for you? And that's the area of life where you may be drawn optimally to plant some new seeds, right? To conceive of something new. And then you're going to get an injection of energy to help you with this from the Capricorn and Taurus areas of your chart, where Mars and Uranus are sitting in conversation with this new moon. So we're going to start with Pisces, because Pisces, this is your new moon, right? And so this is like the birth of your solar year for you, with the sun being in your sign at this time. Incidentally, on that note, there's something called a solar return chart, right? I do one for myself every year. I've done them for other people. What this shows us is it's a snapshot of the sky, just like a birth chart is. But in this case, it's a snapshot of the sky at the moment the sun returns to the exact degree it was at when you were born. And that may or may not happen on the same day you were born every year. And it shows us what the sky looks like. And it's sort of a birth chart, if you will, for that particular year, right? Birthday year. And so we can take a look at that, and we can see what this year has in store for you in terms of, what's the imprint? What's the blueprint for this year look like? So that's something that I can do for you if you're interested, and you can, link to my website is below. So, but we're going to start with Pisces because, again, it's your new moon, Pisces. So this new moon is happening in your first house, and that is the house that speaks to the self. It's the house of I am, right? Me, myself, and I kind of thing. And it is this house that revolves around us as an individual, the relationship we have to ourselves, how we approach the outside world, how we appear to the outside world, right? How we are perceived by the outside world. And it speaks to our physical incarnation. So our physical body, our physical vitality, these kinds of things. This is all first house related. And so there is an opportunity with this new moon for you, Pisces, to really take charge in that area of your life. Again, keeping in mind, all the things I said in the intro. As a Pisces, you know very well about what it means to go with the flow, and that, we can't always plan for everything. And sometimes the best approach is to kind of trust the universe and respond to what the universe is showing us, is handing us. And so whatever is in your awareness at the time of this new moon is calling your attention, to act on, particularly in relation to the self. And, you've got the energy of Uranus and Mars there kind of helping you do that. Uranus sitting, in your case, in the third house, and Capricorn sitting in the 11th house. So I won't go through all the themes of those other two houses because I don't have time for that, but just so you know what houses that's the energy is coming from. But the new moon is focused on the first house, right? That's where the fresh start is on offer for you, most optimally. So that's for you, Pisces. Moving on to Aries now. Aries rising, Aries sun and moon. We have the new moon happening in your second house for you. So this is some kind of fresh start, new way of doing something, conceiving of something new with regards to your personal resources, your time, your money, your energy, what you value, the things you place value on. And this includes how you value yourself, your sense of self-worth. So something new on offer for you, right? Planting those seeds of intention in relation to the second house, looking at things differently, right? With that Uranus piece there, and really having this injection of Mars, your ruling planet, Aries, and which is sitting in your 12th house. And then Uranus and Taurus in your 4th house, really kind of forming that triangle and pointing towards the new moon in your second house. So that's what's going on for you, Aries. And then we're moving on to Taurus, where we've got the new moon happening in your 3rd house, Taurus. So this injection of fresh energy in your house of communications and of your immediate environment and the people in your immediate environment, like your cousins and your siblings and your neighbors and your community members and your teammates and these kinds of things, right? These folks. And it can have to do with like short distance travel. It can have to do with teaching and learning and messages exchanged, and third house is usually early learning, so the learning of the basics. This can also have to do with like commerce and media and that kind of thing in the third house as well. So the new moon, right, is wanting to birth something new in that area of the chart for you. And then you're getting this support from Uranus in Taurus, which is in your 5th house, and Mars in Capricorn in your 1st house. That's where the energy is, really supporting you to take action, but also trust the process. Trust what wants to happen in that area of your chart of the 3rd house. So that's for you, Taurus. Moving on to Gemini, where we've got the new moon happening in your 4th house of your home and your family and your roots and your place of living. So this can involve real estate, your actual place of living or real estate matters. It can involve, the role of the mother or nurturing female figures. It has to do with your ancestry, your roots, your emotional security. The moon is at home in the 4th house. And so something new wants to happen here. you may be conceiving of something new in this area of life around the time of this new moon. Trust the process. This is in Pisces, right? Trust the process. Take action on what feels right, on what you're being called to do at this time. And you're getting some support from Uranus in Taurus in your 6th house and Mars in Capricorn in the 2nd house. So supporting you to act, and perhaps act on something new and different in this area of life at this time of the new moon. And also, kind of perhaps just allow yourself to let go of control, in this area of life as well, and see what the universe wants to bring to you. So, and that's for you, Gemini. Moving on to Cancer, where we've got the new moon happening in your 5th house. So something new on offer, some new seeds of intention to plant in relation to your creative self-expression, right? Your individual expression, creative projects, children, anything surrounding children, your own children. What sparks joy for you? How you have fun in life? What brings you pleasure? Which can include hobbies, that kind of thing. So Cancer, for you, there is an opportunity to conceive of a new way of approaching this area, right? Starting something new in this area of life. And at the same time, trusting the process, trusting what wants to happen, what wants to come in, and being supported by Uranus in your 7th house in Taurus and Mars in your 3rd house of Capricorn, and injecting some energy into this fresh start for you. So that's for you, Cancer. And it may involve, you've got the North Node in your sign right now. And, so this may involve some kind of new direction, or just a feeling of being pulled towards your destiny in some way. For all of us, but potentially, maybe even more so for you, just because the North Node is there. So moving on to Leo. Leo, we've got the new moon in Pisces happening in your 6th house. Your 6th house has to do with your daily routine and health and wellness, and anything, revolving around health and wellness. It can have to do with pets and animals. It can have to do with relationships between unequals. So people that are not on a equal playing field in some way. So something new wants to happen here. Something new wants to be conceived of and started. Planting some seeds of intention in this 6th house. And there's this feeling of just trusting, letting go of control here, just trusting the process, trusting what wants to happen, and having some support to take action, but in a way that feels in the flow. And that is, that support is coming from Uranus in Taurus in your 8th house and Mars in Capricorn in your 4th house for you, Leo. So that's what's going on for you. We're going to move to Virgo now, where we got the new moon that wants to birth something new in relation to your 7th house. So conceiving of something new, a new injection of energy, of ideas, of, something fresh in the 7th house of your one-to-one relationships, close personal relationships of all kinds. The 7th house also has to deal with signing contracts. Although, ideally under a Mercury retrograde, it's, if you can choose not to, then that's optimal. If you can't, that's life. Just make sure you're looking at the details, and not rushing into things, and just having all the information, if that's something that pertains to you around this time, Virgo. But ideally here, something new on offer for you in this 7th house. Something that feels perhaps, optimistic and dreamy with this Pisces energy. And you're being really asked to trust the process here. and let go of control, which is not Virgo's strong suit, right? And the impetus and the energy that can help you with this is coming from Uranus and Taurus in your 9th house and Mars and Capricorn in your 5th house. So those energies are supporting whatever new thing this is for you in the 7th house, Virgo. And so allow the energy to naturally flow in that, in that direction of the 7th house. And see what comes up, see what comes into your awareness around this time. So that's for you, Virgo. Moving on to Libra, we have the new moon happening in your 8th house, Libra. So this is happening in an area of your chart that has to do with intimacy and close, how you kind of bear your soul. It has to do with shared resources. So money that you, also time and energy, right? Those are resources too, that you share with others in some way. It has to do with your, what's kind of buried in the psyche, the secret set, the skeletons in the closet, perhaps, or just things that we don't often reveal to the outside world. So, and there's an opportunity for healing some wounding there. But there is ultimately a fresh start on offer in this 8th house area for you. And it can feel, somewhat faded, perhaps. It can feel a little bit uncertain with Pisces energy, but allow Uranus and Taurus in your 10th house, of career and your public reputation, and Mars and Capricorn in your 6th house to help you with whatever this is, to lend you the energy and the desire to follow the direction, to follow this thread, right, of whatever new thing wants to happen in your 8th house. So that's for you, Libra. Moving on to Scorpio, where we've got the new moon happening in your 9th house of faraway travels, foreign people and places and cultures. It has to do with your philosophies, your belief system, your worldview. Also has to do with teaching and learning, publishing perhaps, and, higher learning rather than the basics kind of thing. So all of these areas, right? Something new on offer, some newness being injected into your life, and an opportunity to plant new seeds and conceive of something new in relation to these themes. And you've got some help from Uranus and Taurus in the 11th and Mars and Capricorn in the 7th, lending you some energy and some, sparking some desire, perhaps. So trust whatever it is that wants to happen and just go with it, Scorpio. We're moving on to Sagittarius. Sag, new moon in your 10th house of public reputation, career, the legacy you wish to leave, your relation to authority, including your own authority, these kinds of things. So something new wants to be planted at this time, conceived of. And it's not, you don't have to control whatever this is, because it is in Pisces. Trust the process, trust what you're feeling, trust your intuition with whatever this is. And you've got some help from Uranus and Taurus in the 12th and Mars and Capricorn in the 8th. Really giving you the will and the drive to kind of go ride the wave here, right? Sagittarius, to whatever this new thing is that wants to be birthed in your 10th house. Moving on to Capricorn. Capricorn, the new moon's happening in your 11th house of your hopes and dreams for the future, groups, associations, friendship groups, you know, your kind of tribe in the larger sense, networks, this kind of thing. And so something new on offer for you here, Capricorn, some new seeds to plant in this area of life. And you're getting some support from Uranus in the first house in Taurus and Mars in Capricorn in the ninth here to help you, you know, kind of like a tidal wave of energy to ride to whatever that new thing that wants to be started in the 11th house is. Trust the process, and see what transpires for you around this time, Capricorn. Last but not least, we've got Aquarius, where the new moon's happening in your 12th house, of the unseen, of what goes on behind closed doors, of places that are kind of tucked away from the world, of how you spend time in solitude, rest, reflection, the dream world, self-sabotage potentially, right? It is the house of Pisces, but something new wants to happen in this area of life for you. Some new seeds of intention, you know, want to be planted here. You may conceive of something new in relation to these themes at this time. And then you've got Uranus in the second house in Taurus and Mars in the 10th house in Capricorn, helping you, to water whatever this is, right? So trust that process, Aquarius, and see what, you know, what transpires for you over the time of this new moon, and what intuitive hits you're getting in relation to those 12th house themes. So that's all 12 signs. Thank you so much for joining me here, and I will see you next week. Blessed new moon, all right, in Pisces on the 23rd. Take good care. Bye-bye.